Now I'm sure we've all heard and seen the hit Netflix recreational series about the grisly life of Jeffrey Dahmer and how he became one of the horrific and prolific serial killers the world had seen till date. However, most of the details wouldn't have been included due to obvious reasons, and since the series was made to be for entertainment, most of the stories of each victim was not explored in further detail. In this video, we will explore and go in detail some of the many gruesome acts that Jeffrey Dahmer had committed and the actions that had led to many murders taking place. Before we get into the video, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe to Puzzled for more puzzling and mind-boggling content. Now, although the series is a fictional account of true events that had went unnoticed for over a decade, the gruesome murders of Dahmer's victims are unfortunately very real. Between the years 1972 and 1991, Jeffrey Dahmer had killed and dismembered 17 innocent victims, all of which were young boys and men. If that wasn't chilling enough, the deranged killer was also known to keep so-called souvenirs of each victim after murdering them. One of these victims was subjected to a harsh zombification experiment. The 11th victim of Jeffrey Dahmer was mercilessly contrived at the hands of the twisted killer who drilled into his skull and poured acid into his brain. Errol Lindsay, who was just 19 years old when he met the sadistic murderer on the streets of Wisconsin and was lured back to his apartment in April 1991. The teen had become the first of his 17 victims to be experimented on as part of Dahmer's sick fantasies to turn the men he met into his zombie slaves. While in a heavily drugged state, the serial killer had drilled into skull of Lindsay and started to pour hydrochloric acid into the hole, all in his sick bid to have full control over his victims. It is said that Errol Lindsay had awoken during this horrific experiment before he uttered the words, "I have a headache. What time is it?" Following this, Dahmer had drugged him further to subdue him, before eventually strangling him and flaying his corpse with the intention of keeping his skin. Errol's sister Rita Isbell had given an emotional victim statement during Dahmer's trial, and she has since recently slammed the Netflix series. In May 1991, Dahmer was almost caught after carrying out his evil doings for a second time, this time on his youngest victim, 14-year-old Conorak Synthesymphone. Conorak was subjected to the same horrific torture as Errol Lindsay after he too was lured back to the killer's apartment. Just like Lindsay, he was drugged before Dahmer took a drill to his brain and injected diluted hydrochloric acid into his frontal lobe. He then left his apartment to visit a bar and buy more alcohol, but when he returned, the young 14-year-old boy had managed to escape onto the street. He was half naked and found 3 neighbors who he had spoken to. The neighbors, who were disturbed at his state and young appearance, had rang the police. The teen was naked, bruised, bleeding, and heavily under the influence of drugs when he managed to escape from Dahmer's apartment. However, when the cops had arrived, Dahmer maniacally convinced them that the boy was merely but his boyfriend and that he was just drunk. When asked about this boy, Dahmer would later testify. "The story I used was he was a house guest, a friend who sometimes drinks too much and runs out in the street naked." He later added that cops failed to spot the hole he had made in the boy's skull. The neighbors tried to tell the officers to investigate and pointed out that the boy was bleeding, but the cops had allegedly ordered them to shut up. Joseph Gabrish, an officer who attended the scene, had noticed that Dahmer's apartment had a foul smell of rotting flesh when he accompanied the pair back, but didn't investigate further. After the police had left, Dahmer claimed to have given the boy another injection of acid into his brain, which this time unfortunately proved fatal. All of Dahmer's crimes were documented in a Netflix remake of the events. This is most likely how most of us are hearing of Jeffrey Dahmer. However, it's safe to say that this caused tremendous backlash, especially from the real victims' families. The story of Errol's horrific murder is featured in a new 10-part Netflix series about Jeffrey Dahmer's sick crimes. The series sparked anger from Errol's family, who say Netflix never approached them before airing and accused them of making money off the tragedy. One episode plays out the courtroom scene where Rita unleashed fury on her brother's killer. She told Insider, "When I saw some of the show, it bothered me, especially when I saw myself. when I saw my name come across the screen and this lady saying verbatim exactly what I said. She later said, if I didn't know any better, I would have thought it was me. Her hair was like mine she had on the same clothes. That's why it felt like reliving it all over again. It brought back all the emotions I was feeling back then. I was never contacted about the show. I feel like Netflix should have asked if we mind or how we felt about making it. They didn't ask me anything. They just did it. Jeffrey Dahmer was surely someone we don't want on our streets. His actions were terrible and something out of a nightmare. Anyways, check out this video on screen to learn about something new. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something new. Help support us by smashing that like button and subscribing for more of the best puzzling content like this. Have a good day and see you soon.